A stretch of land near Interstate 45 in southern Texas, flat, unremarkable, and eerily silent. But for decades, this patch of earth has held a dark secret. Known as the Texas Killing Fields, it has become the final resting place for over 30 women and girls, their lives stolen by a predator or predators, still shrouded in mystery. This is a story of the Texas killing fields where the silence speaks of the unspeakable crimes. The horror began in 1970s and abandoned fields along a 50-mile stretch between Houston and Galveston. The first victim, Colette Wilson, a 13-year-old girl, disappeared in 1971 while waiting for her mother to pick her up from band practice. Weeks later, her body was discovered in the remote fields. She wasn't the only one. Over the following years, more young women and girls vanished, many of them last seen near the same stretch of road. The victims shared haunting similarities. They were often teenagers, traveling alone, and were found discarded in the same grim location, a rural area devoid of witness or help. Each discovery added to the mounting fear as bodies were unearthed. The realization set in. This wasn't random. The Texas killing fields had become a graveyard, and the communities surrounding it were paralyzed by terror. By the 1980s, the number of victims linked to the killing fields had grown, but law enforcement was struggling to make progress. The area's geography, a mix of wetlands, dense woods, and open plains, made it ideal dumping ground for someone who didn't want to be found. The lack of forensic technology at the time further complicated the investigation. The victims continued to vanish. In 1983, the body of 16-year-old Laura Miller was discovered in the fields close to where several other victims had been found. Her case became emblematic of the tragedy, as her father, Tim Miller, went on to dedicate his life to searching for missing persons and advocating for justice. What made the case even more chilling was the growing suspicion that the murders weren't the work of one killer, but several. Over the years, multiple suspects were investigated. Edward Harold Bell, a convicted murderer, claimed responsibility for killing 11 girls in the area, but his confessions were inconsistent and unverifiable. Others, like William Reese, a convicted kidnapper, were linked to some of the cases, but not all. The possibility of multiple predators using the same desolated area only deepened the sense of dread. The 1990s saw more victims, like 12-year-old Laura Smither and 20-year-old Jessica Kane, whose disappearances reignited public fear. Advances in forensic science brought new hope, but the sprawling nature of the case, dozens of victims over decades, meant closure was painfully slow. In recent years, there has been some progress. William Reese was convicted of multiple murders after DNA evidence linked him to several victims. He confessed to killing Jessica Kane and Kelly Cox and led authorities to their remains. However, Reese's confessions only solved a fraction of the case. Today, many of the murders remain unsolved, leaving families in limbo and the fields haunted by their silence. Efforts to identify more victims continue, with advancements in forensic technology providing new leads. But for many, the question of who or how many was behind the killing remains unanswered. The Texas killing fields were immortalized in documentaries and dramatizations, drawing national attention to the case. Yet, for the families of the victims, it is not the media coverage but the loss of their loved ones that defines the tragedy. Each name represents a life stolen too soon, a dream extinguished in the most horrifying way. The killing fields of Texas are more than just a crime scene. They are a symbol of the evil that can lurk in the most unassuming places. For decades, these fields have swallowed the lives of innocent young women, leaving behind only questions, heartbreak, and fear. And though some answers have emerged, the true scope of what happened here remains a dark mystery. The story of the Texas killing fields is one of heartbreak, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of justice. While the fields may now lie quiet, the echoes of those who suffered, they remind us that the search for answers is far from over.